Welcome to ancient Earth, where every fossil tells a story, and every bone holds a whisper from the deep past. The air around you is thick, heavy with the smell of damp earth, rotting wood, and the sweet, almost spicy scent of blooming cycads. Sunlight filters through the canopy of towering conifers and giant tree ferns, dappling the ground in shifting patterns of light and shadow. This is not a gentle, quiet forest. This is the Late Jurassic, 150 million years ago. A world painted in shades of green and brown, ruled by titans. You feel a low, rhythmic tremor through the soles of your feet, a vibration that speaks of immense weight on the move. And then, you see it. Emerging from a grove of ginkgo trees is a creature that seems to defy all biological logic. It's as long as a city bus. Its back crowned with a double row of enormous, kite-shaped plates. Ever wonder what it truly felt like to stand in the shadow of a living giant? To hear the leathery rasp of its skin as it brushed past a fern, or the low huff of its breath as it stripped leaves from a low-lying branch? The reality is grander, stranger, and more magnificent than any movie can capture. Now, let's journey back in time and uncover the story of a lost world. The creature before you is Stegosaurus armatus, the armored roof lizard. The name itself is a fossil, a relic of the very first attempt to understand this animal's bizarre anatomy. When its bones were first unearthed in the raw, windswept landscapes of the American West, paleontologists were stumped. The great plates were found scattered amongst the ribs and vertebrae, leading to an initial theory that they lay flat across the creature's back, forming a kind of reptilian tiled roof. It's a wonderfully imaginative, almost architectural vision of a dinosaur, but one that we now know is incorrect. The plates, you see, stood upright, slicing the air as the animal walked, creating one of the most unforgettable silhouettes in the entire history of life on Earth. But this correction was only the first step in a scientific puzzle that has lasted for over a century. Why this architecture? Why this strange and beautiful design? The animal takes another step, its massive weight settling into the soft earth, and the plates on its back catch the light. They are not a roof. They are a crown, and the story of their purpose is the story of Stegosaurus itself. A puzzling body plan. You will encounter its strange anatomy, from its tiny head and low-slung neck to its powerful, arched back. The sheer improbability of the Stegosaurus is what captivates you. It isn't just the plates. It's the entire package. Your eyes trace its form, trying to make sense of its proportions. The body is immense, a deep, barrel-chested torso that arches dramatically towards the hips, which are the highest point of the animal. From this high point, the spine slopes down steeply towards the front and the back. This creature is built like a suspension bridge, with its powerful hind legs acting as the main pylons, supporting a vast weight that could reach over 7 tons, heavier than the largest African bull elephant. Those back legs are straight and pillar-like, designed for support, while the front limbs are shorter, stockier, forcing its head to hang low to the ground. This entire chassis seems perfectly engineered for one thing, being enormous. But then you look at its head, and the sense of scale shatters. At the end of a surprisingly long and flexible neck is a skull that is comical, almost impossibly small. It's a delicate, narrow wedge of bone, no bigger than the head of a horse, perched on a body the size of a bus. And inside that tiny skull was a brain to match. The famous comparison is to a walnut, and while perhaps a little uncharitable, it was more the size and shape of a bent hot dog. the sentiment holds. For decades, this tiny brain was seen as a sign of stupidity, proof that dinosaurs were dim-witted evolutionary failures. This led to one of paleontology's most curious and persistent myths, the idea of a second brain. Scientists, puzzled by the tiny cranial capacity, noticed a large cavity in the hip vertebrae that housed a bundle of nerves called the sacral ganglion. They speculated this might be a supplementary brain, a booster pack to manage the creature's massive back end. It's a fun idea, but alas, it's just that. Many animals, including modern birds, have a similar nerve cluster for coordinating their legs. It wasn't thinking, it was just relaying signals. The real intelligence, such as it was, resided solely in that little head. And perhaps we've been judging it too harshly. Brain size alone doesn't define success. This animal didn't need to do calculus. It needed to find food, avoid being food, and make more stegosaurs. And for millions of years, it did so brilliantly. Its body plan, however strange to our eyes, was a masterpiece of specialized evolution. The armor-plated riddle. The famous backplates are examined, exploring early theories that they were heavy defensive armor against predators. Your gaze drifts back up from that low slung head, along the curve of the powerful neck, to the feature that defines it. The plates. There are 17 of them in this particular species, arranged in two alternating, almost zigzagging rows that run from the neck all the way down to the base of the tail. They are not uniform. The plates around the neck and shoulders are smaller, more rounded, while those crowning the high arch of its back are the largest, some reaching over 2 feet in height and width, vast, bony kites of startling thinness. As you watch it move, you see they are not rigidly fixed. They seem to have a slight give, embedded in the thick, leathery hide rather than fused directly to the spine. This anatomical detail is crucial, as it was one of the first clues that unraveled the earliest theory about their function. For a long time, the answer seemed obvious. They were for defense. The name itself, Stegosaurus armatus, or armored roof lizard, leans into this idea. Imagine a world populated by ferocious predators like the Allosaurus, a 30-foot-long carnivore with a mouthful of blade-like teeth. Surely, these plates were a kind of shield, a passive defense meant to thwart an attack. You can picture the scene. An Allosaurus lunges, and its teeth scrape uselessly against a wall of solid bone. It was a compelling vision of a walking fortress. But when scientists examined the plates more closely, the vision began to crumble. The plates were not solid, heavy shields. In fact, they were remarkably delicate structures. Their surfaces were not smooth but covered in a complex network of grooves and channels. Cut one open, and you wouldn't find dense, solid bone. Instead, you'd find a honeycomb of internal struts, like the inside of a bird's bone, and a shocking number of passages for blood vessels. They were osteologically fragile. A powerful bite from an Allosaurus wouldn't just bounce off. It would likely shatter the plate, causing catastrophic injury and massive relief. The arrangement was also poor for defense. The two alternating rows left a wide open gap right along the spine, the most vulnerable area. It was like building a castle wall with huge, decorative battlements, but leaving the main gate wide open. Something wasn't right. The armor theory, as solid as it once seemed, was as fragile as the plates themselves. The riddle of their purpose only deepened. Life in a fern savanna, we will explore the Morrison Formation, detailing the specific plants a Stegosaurus ate and how it processed them. To understand the Stegosaurus, you have to understand its world. You are standing in the Morrison Formation, a vast expanse of semi-arid floodplains that stretched across what is now the western United States. The landscape is not a deep, dark jungle, but something more open, like an African savanna, but with ferns instead of grass. Grass has not yet evolved. The ground cover is a carpet of low-lying ferns and hardy horsetails. Groves of palm-like cycads and elegant ginkgo trees dot the landscape, offering pockets of shade, while taller conifers like Araucaria rise like sentinels on the horizon. The climate is seasonal. Long dry spells are broken by torrential wet seasons that swell the rivers and nourish the floodplains, creating a boom and bust cycle of vegetation. This is the world the Stegosaurus was built for. With its head held low, it is a master of this fern savanna. It's a bulk feeder, not a selective nibbler. You watch as it approaches a thick patch of ferns. It doesn't have the complex dental batteries of later herbivores like the duck-billed dinosaurs. Instead, it has a toothless beak at the front of its mouth, covered in a horny sheath called a rhampotheca, much like a tortoise or a bird. With this, it can efficiently crop huge swaths of vegetation. The food is then passed back to its small, leaf-shaped cheek teeth. These teeth weren't for grinding. They could only perform a simple slicing or pulping action. So how did it break down the tough, fibrous plant matter? The answer lies deep within its cavernous gut. Stegosaurus didn't chew its food properly in its mouth. It chewed it in its stomach. Paleontologists believe it engaged in a practice seen in many modern birds and crocodiles: swallowing stones. These stones, called gastroliths, would be held in a muscular, gizzard-like organ, where they would churn and grind against the ingested plant matter, breaking it down into a digestible pulp. It's an ingenious, low-energy solution for processing food, outsourcing the hard work of mastication to a collection of rocks and letting its digestive system do the rest. The evidence for this is occasionally found in the fossil record, where polished stones are discovered clustered in the gut region of dinosaur skeletons. The Stegosaurus was a walking, reptilian compost heap, perfectly adapted to turn the tough flora of the Jurassic into fuel for its colossal body. The deadly Thagomizer. Attention turns to its tail spikes, a confirmed weapon used for defense against giants like Allosaurus. While the plates may have been a flimsy defense, the Stegosaurus was anything but harmless. Your attention is drawn away from the plates, down the sloping back to the creature's tail. It's a long, muscular appendage, held high off the ground, and it doesn't end in a gentle taper. It ends in a weapon. 4 formidable spikes, each up to 3 feet long, jut out horizontally. This deadly arrangement is known, wonderfully, as the Thagomizer. The name doesn't come from a dusty scientific paper, but from a 1982 comic strip. In Gary Larson's The Far Side, a caveman professor points to a diagram of the spikes and explains they were named after the late Thag Simmons. The name was so perfect, so fitting, that the paleontological community just adopted it. It's a rare and delightful instance of pop culture directly influencing scientific terminology. This was no joke, however. The Thagomizer was a brutally effective weapon. Unlike the plates, the spikes were solid, sharp, and anchored to a powerful, flexible tail. For years, scientists debated whether the tail was mobile enough to be used effectively. Computer modeling has since shown that the tail had a wide range of motion and could be swung with incredible speed and force, turning those spikes into lethal bone-puncturing spears. And we have the smoking gun, or rather, the punctured vertebra. A fossil of the predator Allosaurus was found with a healed wound in its tailbone, a deep, circular puncture that is a perfect match for the conical tip of a Stegosaurus Thagomizer. The Allosaurus survived the encounter, but it carried the scar for the rest of its life, a permanent reminder of a failed attack. The Stegosaurus was not a passive victim. It was an active and dangerous adversary. It could pivot its body, keeping its armored front to a predator, while swinging its deadly tail. It was an evolutionary arms race in action. As predators got bigger and stronger, the Stegosaurus perfected its unique brand of defense. This defensive capability might also have played a role in social life. Did these giants roam alone, or did they travel in groups? The evidence is tantalizing but inconclusive. Fossil trackways have been found showing multiple stegosaurs, including juveniles, moving in the same direction, suggesting some form of herd behavior. Living in a group would offer protection, especially for the vulnerable young. You can imagine a herd creating a defensive circle, with adults facing outwards. There are Thagomizers ready, shielding the smaller members within. It's a powerful image, one that transforms the Stegosaurus from a solitary, strange wanderer into a complex social animal, capable of coordinated defense and communal living. Radiators or billboards? We delve into the modern debates, weighing the evidence for the plates being thermoregulators versus elaborate display structures. So, we return to the central mystery, the great plates that crown its back. If they weren't for armor, what were they for? With the knowledge that they were thin, fragile, and filled with blood vessels, two leading modern theories emerged, transforming our view of these structures from simple shields into something far more sophisticated and dynamic. The first is the theory of thermoregulation. Imagine the Stegosaurus on a cool Jurassic morning. As a large reptile, or something in between a classic reptile and a warm-blooded mammal, it would need to warm up its massive body. By turning its body sideways to the rising sun, the vast surface area of the plates would act like enormous solar panels. Blood pumped into the plates would be warmed by the sun's rays, and then circulated back into the body, raising its core temperature far more quickly than by basking alone. Conversely, in the oppressive heat of midday, the plates could work as radiators. By positioning itself in a breeze, the animal could pump warm blood to its extremities. The plates, where the heat would dissipate into the air, helping to cool the animal down and prevent overheating. It's an elegant solution to the problem of being a giant in a seasonal climate. This idea connects directly to the ongoing debate about dinosaur metabolism. The presence of such a sophisticated cooling and heating system suggests an animal that was generating a significant amount of internal body heat, pushing Stegosaurus away from the slow, cold-blooded model and closer to a more active, warm-blooded physiology. The second major theory is just as compelling. The plates were for display. In this view, they are less like radiators and more like giant, bony billboards. Their primary function was communication. They could have been used to intimidate rivals, with a larger, more impressive set of plates signaling a stronger, healthier individual. Or, perhaps more likely, they were for species recognition and attracting mates. We know from the fossil record that there were several different types of stegosaurids, and each had a unique arrangement and shape of plates. Just as different species of modern deer have differently shaped antlers The unique plates of Stegosaurus, Kentrosaurus, and Hesperosaurus would have allowed them to identify their own kind from a distance across the wide open fern savannas. It's even possible they were brightly colored. While we don't have direct evidence of color, the dense network of blood vessels could have flushed the skin covering the plates with blood, causing them to blush a vibrant red or orange during the display, much like a turkey's waddle. The truth may very well be a combination of both. A structure that evolved primarily for display could easily have been co-opted for a secondary thermoregulatory purpose. The debate continues, leaving the plates as a beautiful, unsolved prehistoric puzzle. From bone wars to stardom, the story of its discovery, its role in paleontological history, and its enduring legacy in popular culture is revealed. The story of Stegosaurus doesn't end in the Jurassic. It has a second life, one that begins in the 1872nd during a period of American history known as the Bone Wars. This was a bitter and frantic rivalry between two brilliant paleontologists, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope. They raced across the American West, deploying teams of fossil hunters to dig up and name as many new prehistoric creatures as possible, sometimes resorting to bribery, theft, and even destroying fossil sites to keep them from their rival. It was in this chaotic rush that Marsh's team uncovered the first bones of Stegosaurus in 1877 in the rocks of the Morrison Formation. As we know, his initial assembly was a bit confused, leading to the roof lizard name. But as more complete skeletons emerged from the ground, a more accurate and far stranger picture began to form. By the early 20th century, Stegosaurus had been mounted in museums and had captured the public imagination. It was so alien, so unlike any living creature, that it became an instant icon of the prehistoric world. It appeared in early films, books, and paintings, often depicted as a sluggish, tail-dragging behemoth wallowing in swamps. This image, of course, was a product of its time, reflecting a view of dinosaurs as primitive, evolutionary dead ends. But as science progressed, so did our understanding of Stegosaurus. We learned its tail was held high, a dynamic weapon. We learned it lived not in swamps but on dry plains. And we learned a crucial fact that reshuffles the deck of prehistoric pop culture. One of the most common pairings in illustrations and toys is Stegosaurus facing off against Tyrannosaurus Rex. But this epic battle never happened. Stegosaurus lived in the late Jurassic, around 150 million years ago. T-Rex lived at the very end of the Cretaceous, about 66 million years ago. The time separating Stegosaurus and T-Rex is over 80 million years, far longer than the time separating T-Rex from you. Stegosaurus was an ancient ruin to the T-Rex, its fossils already buried deep beneath the ground. This vast gap in time is perhaps the ultimate testament to the Stegosaurus' success. This was not a failure. This was a lineage that thrived for millions of years, a masterpiece of adaptation in a world of giants. Its legacy today is twofold. In science, it remains a subject of intense study and debate, a creature that challenges our assumptions about dinosaur biology and behavior with every new discovery. And in our culture, it is a beloved symbol of the sheer wonder of the ancient world, a reminder that life on this planet has taken forms more fantastical and awe-inspiring than we could ever invent. The journey back from the fern-strewn plains of the Jurassic is a long one, across an ocean of time measured in millions of years. The vibrant, breathing world of the Stegosaurus fades, The air thins, and the giants turn back into stone and dust, silent once more. But they are not truly gone. They are waiting in the rocks, in the museum halls, and in the enduring curiosity that drives us to look back and understand our planet's deep history. The Stegosaurus, with its impossible body and its unsolved riddles, reminds us that the past is not a simple, settled story. It is an active investigation where each fossil is a clue and every theory is a stepping stone towards a deeper truth. The true purpose of its iconic plates may remain a mystery, a secret that died with them 150 million years ago. But the search for that answer reveals something just as profound: the incredible, creative, and sometimes baffling power of evolution. These were not monsters. They were magnificent animals, part of a living, breathing ecosystem. And their story is a vital chapter in the